question from Jane Johnson, Dana. How do I deal, emotionally speaking, with an ex who uses our kids as a weapon against the other parent? There is a book, I have not read it yet, but it's come highly recommended by Nan and a couple other people, called Divorce Poison. And it talks about, a parent who manipulates. There's also a term that is worth familiarizing yourself with called parental alienation syndrome. And this is a more severe, kind of longer acting effects of manipulation of children. So it's really, I think, education in a lot of ways is power. So once you're aware of what is going on, then you can work to apply that education and anticipate. So if you've got one parent that's manipulating, I think it can be really helpful to really make sure that your actions and your words line up, and to maybe kind of reinforce that with the child. So, because that's what manipulation is, it's actions and words that don't line up. And so pointing out to them without trash talking the other parent. Okay. So this is kind of and this is kind of manipulative in its own, but the reasoning behind it is good. And I think sometimes you have to kind of fight fire with fire when you're dealing with a person who's driven to win. So I would kind of plant the seeds with my child about, this is how we talk to other people. This is how, our actions and words line up. And I'm not going to just say that I love you. This is how I show you that I love you. And, because, I would explain it to a child in like an age appropriate way, that it's easy. It's nice to hear nice words. It's nice to hear that I love you or that you love me, but it's nice when people show it too. And so these are some ways that, people show that they care. And to really keep communication open. That's huge in all of this, because when you're dealing with an abusive person, the number one tool in an abusive person's toolkit is isolation. And they do that in a number of ways. But turning one parent against the other one, especially to where the child quits talking about what's going on, that's a form of isolation. So if they're not comfortable bringing up to you, this is what's going on, this is what I'm experiencing at mom's house or at dad's house, to really, I would really focus on that. Make that your number one priority, keeping communication open, making sure that your child really feels nurtured and safe. Because really, any of us, right? We're not going to remember what a person says. We're going to remember how they made us feel. Kids especially. So if you can provide an emotionally safe place for them, where maybe every Wednesday night, you guys go out for ice cream or for a soda or for a walk or what have you, and that's your time, and you talk. And you can do different things. So there was a thing when I was working at a group home with at-risk kids, my whole thing was, we're all going to sit down around the table and we're going to have dinner. So there's kind of this routine, and we're all, again, we're going to all eat together, because that's kind of a lost thing in the United States, is quality time. Letting the kids know you're important to me. So help me with dinner, help me cook, and giving them positive reinforcement. You are so good at that. Or depending on their age, limited choices, to let them have power and control back. Because if the manipulative parent, odds are, is probably not doing that. So, and that's a part of important development anyhow, but letting it, if it's a young child, saying, let's figure out our vegetable for tonight. Are we going to have peas or carrots? So kind of setting the kid up to win, right? Where you're giving them limited choice, you're giving them power and control, you're providing this safe space that they can talk to you. there's different kind of conversation starters you can use. Because again, a lot of kids, like, we don't have the words for this. They sure don't have the words for this. And we barely think that we have the emotional maturity for this. They for sure don't have the emotional maturity for this. So they're going to be looking to the safe parent as to, how do I handle this? Even though they're not going to come out and say it, they're going to be looking to you and how you react. So, and how you kind of set the tone. So if you're having dinner together or lunch or what have you, saying things like, let's talk about highs and lows. What was the high point of your day? What was the low point of your day? And why? And you can go first if your child's kind of withdrawing and saying, the high point of my day today was, I don't know, whatever. And then the low point, or maybe seeing a bunny on the side of the road when we were driving home. I thought that was so cute. That just really made me smile. That was so fun. And the low point was, I was really sad when a coworker came into work and she said, I don't know, that she had a flat tire. Like, that made me sad for her. And then that's kind of a backdoor way where you guys can start talking about emotions, and then asking open-ended questions like, well, how would you feel in that situation? Or what would you do? And just kind of, fostering communication. I think there might even be some board games on Amazon. Don't hold me to it, but there might be a few that are more like therapy tools, but they feel like a board game, that are all about conversation. So, doing that establishing a really solid rapport between you and the child as early as you possibly can is probably your best defense against a manipulative parent. That would be my guess. I'll be really curious to read this book, Divorce Poison, and see kind of different strategies that they talk about. But letting your child know they can talk to you, because here's the deal: even though your ex might be abusive and he might be a total monster, to your child, that's still their other parent, and they are half of that person. And so it's healthy and normal and understandable that they're going to get defensive about it. So it's really important that you don't talk bad about your ex to them, and that you let them know if they overhear you say something, or if you just, you can't bottle it up in front of them for whatever reason, to let them know, this is what happened. I'm just really upset right now, and I want you to know this has nothing to do with you. And, I'm sorry that we don't get along, and I'm sorry that you had to see this, and I'm going to be okay. And again, kind of, I think, reinforcing the different roles. Like, I'm an adult, and that it's okay. And I'm sad right now, but I'm going to handle it. So the child doesn't feel responsible to take care of the adult, because that's how that kind of codependency starts, where now it's called parentification, where the child then becomes the adult and the caregiver. So letting the child be a child, not trash talking the ex. And if they're upset with something, so if they come to you and they're like, this is what mom or dad did, and it really, was insensitive, and it hurt my feelings, and I'm angry. Because a lot of kids, of course, they're not going to be able to articulate that. They're probably going to start acting out. Is what's going to happen. If they're showing signs like that, and you can tell that they're angry and they're hurt, to validate them and say, oh, yeah, I can see why that would hurt your feelings. That makes sense. That's a really hurtful thing to do. And I'm sorry, that mom did that, or that dad did that. And that wasn't very nice of him. And that's not okay for a person to be treated like that. And so that way you're validating them, but you're not moving into bashing your ex, because it's the same thing that happens when an adult is in an abusive relationship. If an outside person starts bashing their ex and says, you, I've done it too. I mean, I'm guilty. If a person's saying, you've got to leave, this person is toxic, and what often happens is it has the opposite effect. It drives, even if they were to say, my ex is a jerk and he or she is incredibly abusive, and look at all this abuse I'm going through. If you start siding with them and you're like, what a monster, like, and you get upset and you take their side, if they're not ready to leave, or if they're deeply bonded, it's going to have the opposite effect, and it's going to push them towards their abuser, because now they're going to start defending them, which what happens is then they start talking themselves into staying. So it's the same thing with kids. So if you get on their bandwagon and you're like, that's ridiculous, I can't believe your mom did that or your dad did that, then they're going to start defending the other parent, and that shuts down communication. So, and if you're experiencing stuff. Okay, so Beryl's saying, my child falls apart every day after an overnight with his narc dad. Trying to keep communication open. I would see if you can document that as much as possible. You might even want to consider going to like a child psychologist or a psychiatrist and seeing if you can go get your custody revised and say, this is what I'm experiencing. This is my ex. This is the kind of stuff that he did when we were married. And these are the signs that I'm seeing with my child. And this is really problematic. It's really tough. And, and it might even, and I'm probably going to get roasted for this in the comments, but if this person is incredibly dangerous and destructive to your child, I would look at your divorce decree and I would see what it says about moving. And if it's in there like that, if you need to relocate due to a job, that you can, I would keep that option open. I'm just saying, and see about relocating and blaming it on a job.
Lots of love to you guys. You are not alone. You are not crazy, and you really can move forward and heal from this.